Chris Cillizza is really stupid. Take a look at these rankings. So they did a CNN, the Clinton News Network, did a 2020 power rankings for the Democratic primary. Number one, Joe Biden. Number two, wait, is it Bernie Sanders who is now second in the RCP polling averages? Is it Elizabeth Warren who had a bad month but is still 10 points above fourth place, which is Pete Buttigieg? So yeah, Pete Buttigieg is ranked number two off of no good reason. I'll get to that later. Number three, Elizabeth Warren. Number four, Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders is far above Warren and Buttigieg in every poll. Bernie Sanders is leading Latino support in the primary. Bernie Sanders is second in black support. Whatever. Candidate number five, Amy Klobuchar. All right, that makes sense. Those are the five guys that qualified for the race. Number six, you might be thinking Andrew Yang, huh? But nope. Michael Bloomberg, number six. Andrew Yang, number seven. Cory Booker, number eight. Steyer, number nine. And Castro, number 10. I cannot stand when CNN does stuff like this. Like, news organizations back in the day, before 24-hour news, only had an hour per night to discuss what actually happened that day. Talk about the news, and that's it. So, like, imagine if Fox News was only Chris Wallace and CNN was only Wolf Blitzer. That would be all the networks do. But now they have a 24-hour news cycle, which is built around getting profits, so they do dumb stuff like this. And the reasoning for supporting certain candidates is obviously corporate-driven. And it's so elitist. It's, oh my goodness. I'll now read the justification for each candidate. So, should I start from the back? You know what? I'll only focus on some hot topics. So, number seven, Andrew Yang, they basically say that his support is limited at a solid 2 to 3%. And it says he's good at raising money, but he hasn't qualified for the December debate, and he's only a niche candidate right now. Honestly, that's not completely wrong. His support has bottomed out, although the polls are not picking up where his support really should be, as it the polling is wrong with every populist candidate. Wait a second. Speaking of populist candidate, Tulsi Gabbard's not on the list. So Julian Castro's on the list, who wasn't even in the debate. But Tulsi isn't. Okay, Michael Bloomberg, number six. Now, they make him seem like God. Like, oh my God, look at this billionaire willing to spend his own money in the political process. Bloomberg has spent north of $57 million of his own money on an opening round of ads aimed at introducing himself to voters in California, Texas, and other large population states that are set to vote on Super Tuesday or later that month. So yeah, so Bloomberg wants to turn it into a national election. So he's jumping over all the current states. Bloomberg is worth around $55 billion. What remains to be seen is whether whether his ads and the message of business competence and results. The message of business confidence. We've done this before. Moves voters. Will it move voters? Number five, Klobuchar. There's a big jump from number 6 to number 5 on our list. I'm not going to read that. Bernie Sanders. The Vermont senator had a bit of a resurgence in recent weeks, taking advantage of some slippage by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. See, the thing I hate about this is, like, politics doesn't work like a sport. Like, there's no slippage and just direct gain. You don't take advantage of us. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's not so, like, one-dimensional. And the problem for Sanders, they say, is the same problem he's had since beginning to run for president in 2015. Can he find ways to expand his support behind his hardcore allies? Because we know that while Sanders may have the most ardent backers, there are simply not enough of them to currently deliver him the nomination. Okay. In the election against Hillary Clinton, he was terrible with Latino voters, okay? He is leading candidates in Latino voters. Black voters, he's second. Like, he's the one developing the coalition right now. No one's paying attention. The media won't pay attention. because they don't like true anti-corporatists. They don't like populists. And they'll make up some BS reason for Pete Buttigieg to be number 2, I guarantee you. So Elizabeth Warren, number 3. Like, they go through all of the negatives Warren has gone through in the past month. The last month has been rough on Warren. Her Iowa poll lead is gone, and she has fallen into a tier for second place nationally. A tie for second place nationally. A tie for second place nationally. Bernie's above her 2 points. 2 points on the average, on the RCP average. There are numerous reasons for Warren's drop, including attacks on her Medicare for All stance. The attacks are not on her stance. The attacks is because of the way she wants to pay for that stance. It's a regressive way to pay for it. It's not a possible way to pay for it. It's not a serious way to pay for it. She completely told her progressive base that's voting for her for healthcare reasons to go vote for Bernie with that plan that she put out to pay for it. And they make up for it, of course, because Warren and Buttigieg, if you haven't known, those are the two candidates who are really favorable among wealthy whites in a Democratic primary right now. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are relying on poor whites and minorities, while Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg are their wealthy white people candidates. Anyway, they try to make up for this. But while there is a lot that has gone poorly, don't lose sight of the top line. Warren is still well liked by the Democratic primary voters and has the most endorsements besides... What does this, well liked? Okay. Bernie Sanders has the highest favorability rating of any candidate. Joe Biden's number 2. Warren is tied for 3rd with Pete Buttigieg. It's not factually correct at all what they're saying, okay? Pete Buttigieg. Look how they start out, the reasoning for Pete Buttigieg. If the Iowa caucuses were held today, the South Bend, Indiana mayor would win. He literally led 2 polls in Iowa with a sample size of around 200 people and a plus or minus margin of error of 6 points. That's not a lead. It's a caucus state. That's not how caucuses work. Ugh. And then it goes on to say, and he would have a pretty good chance of winning the New Hampshire primary 8 days later, too. No one else in the current field can credibly make that claim. If the Iowa caucuses were held, he would win, and he has a good chance of winning the New Hampshire primary. No one else in the current field can credibly make that claim, except Bernie Sanders, who has led in polls in Iowa and New Hampshire in the past week. Before writing this, before they put this article out, Bernie Sanders has led in both states. But no one else can make that claim. For Buttigieg, the challenge will be keeping up this momentum. It's so good. He just has to keep up the momentum. He's doing so good. He has 0% votes from Hispanics and blacks. He's so good. He's the white candidate. Every conventional piece of wisdom that people say in defense of Biden, Pete Buttigieg fires directly the opposite direction. He's not experienced. He cannot get a broad coalition. He doesn't excite black voters. Black voters hate him. He can't excite Latino voters. Pete Buttigieg is the worst candidate to possibly run in the general election other than Warren. Anyway, Joe Biden, number 1. I love this because Joe Biden is performing so terribly, but he's still number 1 somehow. He literally is out on the campaign trail telling people not to vote for him. I guess that's how you win, is reverse psychology, I guess. They say the Biden train is on rickety tracks, but it keeps on holding on. Biden is not ahead in Iowa or New Hampshire. He does, however, hold a massive edge among black voters, which has buoyed him nationally and in South Carolina. At the same time, Biden has the most endorsements from elected officials. Who cares about endorsements? The most, John Kerry endorsed them today. Who cares? That makes zero difference in anything. That leaves, at least they say here, Joe Biden is a weak frontrunner. At least they'll be honest about that. Chris Cillizza, the guy who was instrumental in writing this, is so dumb. I'm sorry. He's not dumb. He's ignorant because the media purposely doesn't look at facts. They don't care about facts. They care about what fits their bottom line. And of course, they'll put Bloomberg above Yang because Bloomberg is worth $50 million, owns his own media company, and CNN's getting a lot of money because of Bloomberg's $30 million ad buy. There's always forces behind all of these certain biases in the media. There's a reason they don't like Sanders, they don't like Yang, they don't like Tulsi. Dude, it's like they just want to try to do whatever they can to win this election without changing much. They want to go back to Obama, which was a centrist, center right economically, and a little bit liberal socially president. Like, how can you argue with Donald Trump calling you fake news when all of your like commentating is fake? Like that's what Donald Trump got right. He knew. Like he knows. If anyone knows, he knows the faults of our system. And he is able to point this out that this is fake news. And guess what? Bernie supporters, Yang supporters, the people that actually pay attention to politics, because I guarantee you, people that spend a lot of time on politics and paying attention to them, they're majorly not voting for Biden. They know he's not a good candidate. They're majorly not voting for Warren. They know about her difficulties keeping or difficulties deciding who she is. They might vote for Pete because they don't know enough about him yet. But honestly, boy, if you pay attention to politics, you see that Donald Trump is not wrong when he says these media organizations are fake news. And you can make the argument, oh, Fox News is worse. Okay, Fox News is worse. But the lesser of two equals argument is a lot easier to make if you can argue that you're the good.